Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online, and on the go. This is Valley News Live at 5.
Former West Fargo teacher Shannon Mosier will spend the next 10 years in jail and another 5 years of supervised probation for her conviction of sex-related crimes against students. Mosier will also have to register as a sex offender. The courtroom was packed this morning with tearful family, friends, plus members of her church and faculty of West Fargo schools. Mosier gave an emotional statement saying that she deserves every year she got, but hopes the community and her victims forgive her.
My sinful actions have hurt the victims involved deeply and their families in a traumatic way that no family should have to experience. I violated their trust in me as a teacher and a trusted adult in the community. No apology will be enough to undo the hurt that my actions have caused.
We will have more on this story tonight on Valley News Live at 6. A police officer accused of having sex with a teenage boy has been convicted of felony, corruption, or solicitation of a minor. Brighton Dahl served as a Williston police officer and a McKenzie County Sheriff's deputy. He was charged in August 2017. Dahl was accused of having sex with the boy more than once while working in law enforcement. The boy was 16 and Dahl 22 at the time. Dahl faces up to 5 years in prison. Sentencing was not immediately scheduled. We've had showers moving through the area. Some of us are seeing it, others are not. Hutch, what's happening this evening?
Well, if you are in the Devil's Lake Basin, the James River Valley, and out towards Wadena and western Otter Tail County, likely some of these showers are reaching the ground. Not everyone's seeing rain. Down near Ellendale to Sisseton is where we have the heaviest bands of showers heading into the evening. This evening, the precipitation chances will last, and this system slowly creeping its way to the east. So we'll have a chance of sprinkles this evening in the FM area, although the chances will be greater south and north of us. In Grand Forks, rain, temperatures slipping into the 30s. Andrea, overnight, temperatures get cold enough for some of this to change over to snow. So if you are voting on Election Day early in the morning, afternoon, or evening, I'll have an update on what you can expect. It looks snowy and it looks colder for some. Details in a few minutes.
Okay, thanks, Hutch. A former Burleigh County Sheriff's deputy accused of stealing evidence from drug cases has pleaded guilty to felony theft and misdemeanor drug possession under a conditional agreement. Officials say that a misdemeanor theft count against Kerry Komrosky was dismissed. Komrosky was charged in April after investigators reportedly found about 3 pounds of meth and 47 grams of cocaine in his home. He later resigned. A 5-year-old boy was flown to a Fargo hospital after he was struck by a car while waiting for the bus. It happened in Langdon this morning just before 8. Police say the 5-year-old was crossing the street when a semi heading east stopped to let him and 3 other kids cross. A car going west did not stop and hit the child. 62-year-old Kathleen Finson was the driver who hit the child. It's not known at this time if she'll be facing any charges. The boy's condition is also not known at this time. Is any indication, the polls will be packed tomorrow for midterm elections. You can cast your ballot from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. and then check in with Valley News Live on air and online for results as the numbers come in. There are a number of key races and issues that we are following, including the tight race for the U.S. Senate in North Dakota and the measure to legalize recreational marijuana in the state. On the Minnesota side, voters will pick a new governor and Moorhead voters are deciding on a new mayor. With Election Day coming in less than 24 hours, many locals are scrambling to make sure they have the proper identification to vote. But many don't know you have an extra week to present your ID if you do a set-aside vote. Valley News Team's Rose Itzkovitz joins us in the studio to explain. Rose?
Yeah, Andrea, this actually happened to me last week when I went out to early vote and I didn't have the proper ID on me, so I was turned away before I could actually vote. Then later in the week, I come to find out the poll workers should have told me about a set-aside vote. I could have voted right then and there, and then I'd have an extra week to bring the correct ID to the Cass County auditors at the local courthouse. Once I learned that info, I went back and requested a set-aside vote, and there was still a lot of confusion among the workers, though we eventually got it all straightened out. So I went back out today to see if most knew about this, and like me, they didn't.
Caleb Neiman recently moved here from Illinois. When I ran into him, he was venturing into the packed Fargo DMV. for a last-minute North Dakota ID so he could vote.
I tried to do the early voting thing last week, and the people in charge were saying like, oh, sorry, like we know the website's unclear, but yeah, you can't do that.
Neiman didn't have a North Dakota ID yet, but according to Cass County's election coordinator, the workers should have told him about the set-aside vote.
Basically just giving us all their information. They vote a ballot, they seal it in an envelope, and that gets held until they bring in the necessary ID.
The upside to this? You have a whole extra week to pop into the Cass County Courthouse and show your ID for your vote to count. The downside? Most don't know about this. When you went on Wednesday, did anybody tell you about the set-aside vote?
No, they said like, oh, you can go to the DMV real quick and come back, and so that's what we tried to do. I hadn't heard of this set-aside thing.
Do you know about the set-aside ballot?
I do now that you told me.
I went on Wednesday and they didn't give me any option of a set-aside ballot. Why would they not have told me about the set-aside ballot?
And they should have. Unfortunately, they're not perfect, and they received 2 hours of training before each election. But I know I've touched base with my inspectors a couple of times, just asking them to remind the clerks that, we're supposed to be giving this option to everyone.
As for new neighbor Caleb Neiman, he walked into the DMV, saw the 3-hour wait, and walked right back out.
But you're saving me potentially 3 hours, so I appreciate it.
Now that he knows he has an extra week to change his ID.
And I'm told you can still do a set-aside ballot tomorrow on Election Day as well. Cass County tells me typically they still want whatever ID you do have just to show you are who you say you are. But I asked, well, what if you don't have any ID? I'm told you can still do a set-aside ballot, but it's important to remember you must present your proper ID by the following week in order for your vote to count. Andrea?
Okay, thank you, Rose, for clearing that up. And if you choose to cast a set-aside ballot, you have until the canvassing board meets, which will be the following Tuesday, November 13th at 10 a.m. You can find all of this on our website, valleynewslive.com. Just click on this story. If you're heading to the polls tomorrow, it's good to know what you can and cannot do. State Election Director John Arnold says you can take ballot selfies, but he urges people to respect the privacy of those voting around you. People can also exit poll as long as they are outside the room where voting happens, and inform voters that answering is voluntary. People cannot pass out political buttons and badges within 100 feet of the polling place, and they can't try to persuade voters within that distance as well. Some parents spank their children as a disciplinary matter, but a new report is recommending parents use healthy forms of discipline rather than spanking. Our Valley News team's Maddie Gelsa spoke to a few parents in the Valley and shows us what they do to discipline their children.
A new study is encouraging parents to avoid physical punishment and verbal abuse to their kids.
From what I've been told and from what works for me is the minimal amount of force possible to help, correct the situation.
The report recommends them to use positive reinforcement or appropriate behaviors, setting limits and setting expectations. This is because corporal punishment increases the risk of negative behavioral, cognitive, and emotional outcomes.
I tend to be more friendly with my kids and try to use ways that to either direct their thinking from what they want to what do I want.
But Ahmed says sometimes spanking is okay, but most of the time it's bad because
you might scare the kids or you might force the kid to do what you want, but is that a good idea? Is that going to go inside? I don't think so.
Doctors say spanking does not improve behavior over the long run and may cause more aggressive behaviors. The study says only 6% of pediatricians in the U.S. have positive attitudes towards spanking. Reporting in Fargo, Maddie Joseph, Valley News Live.
Sanford Health recommends parents go to sanfordhealth.org to get more information on ways that you should discipline your children without spanking them. First and fifth graders from Eagles Elementary School celebrated their 50th day of school today with a good old sock hop with seniors at Touchmark at Harwood Groves. Students were taught how to dance the sock hop and other popular dance moves from the 1950s.
I think it's just all of the energy that the students bring to Touchmark. Clearly, it's a party that residents and the students can enjoy together, and maybe it's a new experience for some of the Eagles students.
Those who attended were also treated to root beer floats. While many decide to pull out the Christmas decorations after Halloween, let's not forget about Thanksgiving. Whether it's a wreath to hang on the door or a handmade wired sign, Unglued has some easy do-it-yourself projects that are budget-friendly to get you in the spirit of the holiday.
We just kind of did ones that either require like a $1 wreath that you add your own craft supplies to that you have in your stash, or just using different kinds of iron-ons to make it happen.
Morgan says these projects are family-friendly, but that children should have parents supervise when using an iron or a glue gun.